Yeah, I think that's one of the craziest things that I see a lot is a lot of people want to do like cold outbound, cold outreach, just like dial more, 200, 300 phone calls. But it's all about the personal touch. What if I told you you could stop cold calling forever? That the key to building a $1 million real estate business isn't a hack or the latest CRM, but a simple, repeatable system that turns your relationships into revenue. Today's guest didn't just talk about it. He built it. Mike Gandolfo is a national speaker, a high-performance coach, and the founder of a boutique brokerage that's grown almost entirely through repeat and referral business. In a world obsessed with leads, Mike focused on trust, and the results speak for themselves. In this episode, you'll discover why 80% of his deals come from people calling him, not the other way around, the simple philosophy that transformed his career, and the overlooked strategy for getting clients to refer you before the deal even closes. So stick around, because once you hear how Mike built his referral engine, you'll never look at lead generation the same again. Before we begin the podcast, I have one small favor to ask. If you could hit the subscribe button so that we could reach more real estate agents every single week. Thank you. So tactically break down for me how you get referrals from your current clients. Is it email follow-up? Is it sitting down for a cup of coffee? Is it installing someone in larger companies' HR departments to help with relocation? What's the process?
Man, that's a great question, and it's long-winded because it's a whole system, right? Like, so we actually here at RE Solutions, we follow very just systematic lead generation when it comes to working by referral. And it's funny to me because I'll see these posts and an agent will put out there is like, oh, I sent out 200 mailers to people in my database and I didn't get anything or whatever else. I tried this one thing. And really when it comes to being top of mind, this is what we're talking about. Like, right, how do I be not the tissues, how do I become Kleenex? How do I make sure that I'm not the copy machine? How do I become Xerox, right? How do I become that name that becomes synonymous in my client's world when it comes to I need a realtor or real estate? And actually, we just would say if they need almost anything, how does it be like Mike's my guy, or I need to make sure we call RE Solutions. And so it comes from what we call really the stacking effect, and making sure that we've got all these activities from I guess the best way to put it is that we have some monthly mass marketing that we do to our entire database. And then we have some dialed down personal touches that occur throughout the month. And really our people, especially our top people, the people that are going to refer us the most, get loved on maybe as much as 4 or 5 times a month. But because we do it from using different mediums, from using phone calls and personal notes and delivering, I was out yesterday. I spent the whole morning yesterday delivering little gifts to my clients, whatever else. And so we're getting face to face and we're using all these different mediums. No one since 2006, when I started working this way, ever says, man, you're like overwhelming. Stop doing this. This is not okay. Like it's all just a systematic approach, but we've got to continue to stay in touch with these people and really make sure that when the opportunity comes up for them to connect us with someone else, we've painted a picture so that they can recognize the fact that, hey, this person needs to be connected with Mike Gandolfo. This is how I connect them with Mike Gandolfo. This is basically how I set that up. And it requires us to make sure that we're loving on people constantly and systematically.
How many people are you doing that with concurrently?
Yeah, so the data will show, and this is the beautiful thing about working by referral. A lot of people will say, oh, I need to have a big, wide database. This is not broadcasting. This is narrowcasting, right? We're taking a very confined group of people. I think you need to have at least 100, but you probably, once you start getting around 225 or 250 relationships, like it's almost becoming too much. And you got to remember, you're marketing directly to that 100 or 250, 100 to 250 people. But each one of those people knows another 200 people. So your reach is actually a lot bigger than you think it is. And because it's like, it's not like me coming to Andrew and saying, I only need Andrew to move, buy or sell a house. No, I need Andrew to know that he, to be a willing advocate who can connect me with people that he knows. that come through, and you have it because like my favorite is I have Amy, the school teacher, who actually I love her so much. I moved her on my street. She she got called by another teacher who was moving into her district from she was moving from about an hour and a half away, and she was calling Amy to say, hey, what does it take, what's it look like to get a job in this school district, whatever else. And Amy said, hey, if you're moving here, you need a realtor. Have you found a house yet? That was a question that Amy asked, and then she was able to make the connection for us.
Yeah, I think that's one of the craziest things that I see a lot is a lot of people want to do like cold outbound, cold outreach, and it's just like dial more, 200, 300 phone calls, whatever. But it's all about the personal touch. Like my entire business is built on, I think, the CRM. I was just doing a little bit more prospecting. We barely tip 390 total leads.
Yeah.
And this is from people coming on LinkedIn. This is from cold outbound, which like the entire CRM. So it's all about that personalization. How are you systematizing it though? I think that's really what we want to get into. Like, what are you specifically doing?
So specifically, I subscribe to a coaching company, right? So it provides a lot of the materials that we use. I've been with them since day one. It's a very prominent coaching company. Am I allowed to say who it is? I don't know. Okay. Like I'm a big believer in Brian Buffini and the Buffini and Company working system. Ninja Selling though, it does a very similar kind of thing, except the one thing that Ninja Selling doesn't do that Buffini and Company does is that Buffini actually gives you the CRM. Buffini actually gives you the materials to send out. And Ninja is more about just having the process, but both of them work very systematically together. And actually I take a little bit of each. I'm primarily a Buffini person, and with what they give us the mailers that we're going to send out every month, they give us the template of the letter. So the first thing that happens, and we've actually adjusted things a little bit where we come from. So on the first of the month, we send out a postcard to our database of 100 to 250 people. The postcard I love because a postcard, I don't have to worry about someone tossing in the mail as junk mail, right? Like a postcard is you're always going to get someone's eyeballs on your logo, and they might catch it. They might catch some of the message or whatever else. And really with those mailings, what we send out, don't get me wrong, I think is important a little bit, but the thing that we're really communicating is consistency, right? If there's three things to our clients that we've got to communicate on a regular basis, it's our character, it's our competence, and it's our consistency. And so the postcard gets sent out. Then around the 10th or so, we send out we send out more of a letter, and it's an item of value is what Buffini calls it. And it really has everything to do with something that's going to help the client. It's not about us. It's about some information. So it could be like, hey, this is how you avoid identity theft, or hey, it's tax season. Here's some tax tips going into tax season, whatever it might be. And then around the 20th of the month, we send out an e-report, is what we call it. It's a mass email that supports the mailing on the 10th. It's like an add-on to that. So that's the mass marketing thing that happens. And there's some social media things that we can splatter in there as well. I tend to believe that social media is not necessarily as much of a lead generation tool, but it's almost like a lead verification tool, right? So like if I'm referred to someone, they're going to go check me out on social media. And so when they come to my social media, they're going to need to see things there that basically support what the person who referred them to me said, right? So it's basically a way for them to verify that maybe I am the real deal. And
I really like
they
that.
Want to contact.
That's a good way to put social media lead verification.
Yeah, well, because I think in our world, a lot of people mistake being busy for being productive, and I think social media marketing is the number one way people do that. They think that it's going to be some sort of cure-all. It's going to be this massive lead source, and really, like, you're probably not getting too many clients off social media. And actually the statistics show it's really, really small. True. Now, does that mean that there's not someone who knows me, likes me from something other reason, and then sees me doing real estate that they might trigger the thought. That's a different story, right? It's got to verify. They've got to verify what they already think about you. So that's the mass marketing on a monthly basis for us. When it comes to a systematic, this is going to almost, listen, I'm just telling you right now, if you do these things consistently, you can be a millionaire in real estate. And I don't care who you are. It's writing, it's making 5 check-in calls to my database, and it's writing 3 personal notes to express gratitude. I do those on a daily basis. 5 check-in calls, 3 personal notes. And then we do these things called pop buys, where it's like literally we stop by with a small little gift, and we typically get these things at the dollar store. It does not matter what the gift is. We put a little catchy tagline on it. We keep it something that almost everybody uses, an ice cream scoop or whatever it might be. And like we literally keep the dollar store in business around us because of it. And we just deliver those things and make that personal connection. They're quick little visits, whatever else. And then the one thing that from the ninja world that I think we really add in is we try to do, so we do one of those pop buys a week. I'm sorry, not one. We do 5 of those pop buys a week, so 1 a day. And then we try to do 2 real estate reviews, right? CMAs, where basically, hey, here's an update of what's going on. And these are never like complete CMAs, right? These are market analysis that kind of tell them that's what's happened in their neighborhood maybe over the last year. It's enough to wet the whistle a little bit so that if they want to ask further questions or if they want to get a more in depth, we've opened up that conversation. But it's a good way to kind of show some confidence. So if I have 100 people in my database, then I'm basically doing 2 a week. Everybody in my database has gotten a CMA that year to kind of update them on what's going on with their specific property. So, and I would say we also try to do that around the time of their purchase anniversary. And it doesn't matter if they bought with us or didn't buy with us, right? I mean, they still have a purchase anniversary and they still have a house, and we can still do a CMA on it. So that's kind of the secret sauce. Like we got that. It's that simple, but it's not, because you got to do it consistently. And that's where most people struggle. And typically when we're slow, and it doesn't matter what market we're in. And actually, when we're in a slow market, it's almost better. But I can go back 90 days from now and say, hey, if I'm slow right now, I can go back 90 days and say, well, I wasn't being very consistent with my activities. And then we can be slammed and be like, oh, I was hammering my activities back then. But it's making sure you carve out that 1.5 to 2 hours a day to do that lead generation. And then really figuring out where your secret sauce is. And for me, it was 2009 when I had my major breakthrough. Of course, the real estate market sucked, but I grew my business like no other that year, because I started off every morning at 8 a.m. with a face-to-face coffee with someone. Coffee was cheap, and the person had to go to work. So it was going to be 25, 30 minutes, but it was going to be impactful. And it gave me a reason to write a note to that person right afterwards. And that's it, man. That's the secret sauce. You do that consistently, I tell you right now, that I think
that's really, really smart. I think that's one of the biggest things is the personal touches there. Doing the 5 phone calls. I know personally, like that's one thing that I hammer in with people is using a CRM and making those check up calls every time. Like personally, I don't do 5 a day. I usually just do, when did I last touch? Okay, like a month and a half later or something along those lines. And so,
but you're systemizing it regardless.
It's systemizing those touch points.
Yeah.
I want to dive into like the mass ones as well, because one of the agents near me had a really, really clever idea. So have you seen where you can write down your handwriting and then it prints your handwriting onto a piece of paper like it's a personalized note? Yeah.
Like impersonal personal notes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I know trouble.
What he's been doing is he does those, and he's thinking about adding like a metal business card. And the metal business card is like, return this to me and I'll give you like a 15-minute home valuation, what's your home at, all that type of thing. And he's going to do that every 6 months. So because they're metal business cards, people won't throw them away. They open it. It's like, this is a personal note that's kind of heavy. Like there's a gift in it. And they give, exactly.
Substantial, yeah.
And so now he's opening conversations with people every 6 months. It's beautiful. And you just need to run it through, go through. So systematizing, is that the point of the second letter every month? That's some sort of personalized, like not semi-mass, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, first off, the reason why most real estate agents don't make it is because they don't systemize their lead generation. Or they either don't systemize their own lead generation, or they try to abdicate. They try to, go, I'm going to go join over here because they're giving me leads. Well, I'll tell you what, all you're really doing is you're someone's call center to make sure that you're following up on these leads, and it can burn you out, right? So, systemizing your own lead generation and taking responsibility for your own lead generation, I think, is extremely key. And once you systemize it, and whatever your lead generation strategy is, I just kind of laid out mine. It was being consistent. But as far as what it comes for that second letter, Buffini would tell us to send out the letter on the first of the month and do the e-report on the 15th of the month. It was when I went to a Ninja installation that I actually came up with the thought of having the postcard added into that. And it's really just a way to make sure that um, we're hitting people's, either email box or their print mailbox enough times that continually just hit that reticulated activator. So if it happens to be someone maybe who I haven't talked to in, like you said, 6 weeks, maybe 6 weeks has gone by, because we don't contact everybody. We actually go through and we give a grade, A plus, A, B, and C, based on how likely they are to refer. You could be a C in my database, and I might not talk to you for 4, 5, 6 months, but you're getting that other stuff, so that and typically those C's, a lots of times, with people who, when it comes down to their transaction, they would work with us, but they're just not really designed to refer you, right? They struggle putting their, and what, it's not because we're not good. It's just because it's outside of their nature, right? It's just not, they'd have to really have it teed up. So it's a good way for us to just make sure that we're hitting those people on a regular basis, so that we don't fall through the cracks. We systemize that mass, and you can have a good business and just send out mailers consistently. But it's when I do the calls behind, it's when I do the personal notes behind, it's when I deliver those Popeyes, it's when I do the CMAs, it's when I invite you to coffee, that is like the fertilizer that just makes you have an unbelievable harvest, right? So I can plant, and so I look at that mass marketing as just a scattering seeds, and some seeds are going to pop up, and we're going to produce some harvest. But then I take the other stuff and I strategically say, hey, this person, if I love on this person, this is what I can expect. If I invest in this relationship is someone who is going to be active. This is the Amy who's going to get a call about switching school districts, and know that that's a great person to connect me with. This person gets it. I want to invest my time and energy with that person, and I don't treat everybody equal.
Yeah, I think that's very important as well. Like, understanding there's certain, like, I guess, people in your sphere of influence who are going to refer more and refer less. I also wanted.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's gonna be different, right? I mean, everyone's wired a little differently.
I also wanted to kind of ask about this. So it seems like the personalized notes are more to build the relationship, more tactical. The mass is more to remind them about, like, the real estate market, that type of thing. So in the mass emails, in the mass postcards, what are you putting in those specifically, tactically, to really engage them with the real estate market?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, Buffini is the one who's telling us what we're sending out on a monthly basis, and we don't overthink it. Like, they give us the template, they give us the letter, whatever they're putting out there, we're sending out. I mean, it's that simple. Now, what we typically try to do is we look at what Buffini's sending out the next month, and we try to take the postcard and localize it a little bit so that the messages are consistent. And again, I guarantee, I know that there's people who get those letters once a month that still see our logo, who see the letter and they throw it away. Okay. They don't even open up and see what the information is inside. The postcard, they're at least going to get it, and they're probably going to flip it over at least once or twice, and it's going to absorb in. And the consistency piece is there. So that for me is really, but you're exactly right. Like, it's information stuff, and hopefully it's triggering some sort of action where hey, this is good things that I don't need, but Andrew needs it, so I'm going to share it with Andrew and pass me on that way. Or we've had it happen before where we actually just got someone under contract because last year Brian was everything was focused around the top 10 reasons why people are making a move right now, right? One of them was to get closer to family, but one of them was around the fact that you've got aging families, and we got these multi-generational housing coming up all over the place, and that triggered her to take another step, then which triggered her to reach out. One time, we have a lot of physicians we work with. I passed on a $5 coffee gift card to say, hey, it's Physicians Appreciation Week. Thanks for being, such a great doctor and helping so many people.
Real estate agents, you're throwing qualified leads into trash, and I'm going to give you the exact solution to fix it. Your Google My Business listing is one of the best ways to get high quality inbound leads without ads, social media, or an expensive website. But most agents completely ignore it. Meanwhile, some of my clients are generating as many as 50 qualified leads a month on autopilot. Take Legendary Real Estate, for example. In just 2 months, they 4x their Google My Business listing interactions. That's calls, website clicks, and directions to their office. Yet so many agents are out here grinding on social media, wasting money on ads, and struggling with their website, all while ignoring the easiest lead source they already own. The best part, you don't need to do any of that. You just need 15 minutes a week and the right strategy. I've seen plenty of Google My Business listing courses, but nothing that works specifically for real estate. So I built you one, a Google My Business listing course for real estate. And before you say, oh my God, he's just another course guy, listen, it's free. I'm giving you it for free. There's no paywall, there's no upsell, there's no catch, okay? Just the real tactics I use every single day to generate my clients' leads. So if you want to get the course, just drop me a follow. It's the link in bio, all yours, again, for free. So that being said, I'll see you on the other side.
Guy got it, and it's like, hey, I think it's time for me to move. I mean, that literally happens that way, right? Like we just jump to the top of their head. It's all that's what it kind of comes.
Yeah, I love it.
So
there's a couple that are really interesting by me. I don't know if you do anything similar to this, but so in Ashland, one of the agents that I work with, we developed a page for him.
Yep.
That's local events. So all he does every month is he sends an email and a postcard with all of the local events, and it says, for updates, check out our website. That's it.
You'll love it.
It's not about real estate either.
Just what you're doing there is you're the source, right? You want to be the source, and that's fantastic. Yeah.
As far as I know, it's the only like aggregate, if you will, in the area. So everyone goes to it. And even then, you're staying top of mind because they're reminding themselves, oh, there's this event. Okay, I know where to go. So now instead of like only hitting them 2 times a month, 3 times a month, it's every time they're going to an event.
And I think it's also though important though that you take that and you're able to remind people what you do behind it, right? So like one of the guys that I really like, who's a real estate trainer out there, a guy named Neil Mathwig, the Agent Rise guy. His podcast used to be called Onion Juice. It's now Agent Rise's Agent Rise coaching program. Neil and I have spoken at several events together, and I think a lot of him. Actually, I'm starting to do work with his community to help them out with 12-week year stuff, and he's coming into our office and helping out with some of the training that they do. Neil used to do something very similar to that in Madison, Wisconsin, and especially around like great restaurants and whatever else. But he realized that, was he getting business from it? Yes. But in some ways he was becoming like the burger competition guy or the community, this guy. And he then, when he actually just switched markets to Fort Myers a couple years ago, Fort Myers, Florida, it was he started putting all that great information together, but making sure that there was some touch point behind him, reminding this is what we do. And sometimes, we joke about it, but real estate agents are so afraid of rejection sometimes that sometimes we provide all this great information and great value, but we still operate as secret agents. And, and our clients really need us to connect the dots at a very basic level of, hey, when, you may have heard it too. You may have had some of your people tell you, oh, I didn't realize that I helped you buy a house, but I didn't realize you helped people sell houses too. Or we had a client last year who didn't realize that we helped people one county over, that just, 20 minutes away. So Um, it's really making sure that we don't assume, because that's when you get in trouble, that the person knows exactly how to refer us. They know exactly how to engage with us. They know exactly how to work with us. They know exactly what we do, where we do it, all this other kind of stuff. And we got to continually remind people about what that is and how we do it. Otherwise, we're leaving up for them to connect the dots, and they're not going to. None of my clients, as much as they love what we do, wake up in the morning saying, man, I really got to find Mike a referral today. I got to find someone for Mike to work with today. Nobody does that. Right. So it's really important that
Yeah,
we're
I
connecting
agree.
those
I think
dots.
one of the funniest examples of this, for me at least, is if you're familiar with products on a Google My Business listing, one of the things that we started adding is
Okay.
a seller's agent, which, like, you and I both know that that isn't really a thing. It's called a listing agent. But a lot of people
Right.
don't know that it's called a listing agent. So we put a product on it called seller's agent. And funnily enough, people start getting more seller leads.
And I would totally agree with that too, because like we actually have that all the time that happens. Sometimes we can actually be like the military guys and we use our words and we throw around things like CMA and whatever else and blah, blah, blah. And they don't know what any of this stuff is. And on our contract, I joke about it all the time because it says listing agent and selling agent. And people think when they see selling agent, it's like, why doesn't it say buyer's agent? And it's really confusing for a lot of people to get. And exactly right. I mean, and what you just said there is so brilliant, because the other secret sauce, I think, to working by referral is making sure we're saying things in their language and not in our language. So I had yesterday, one of my really good friends from Virginia Beach, which is a huge military place. Guy is brilliant. I mean, if you want the roadmap of how to make $1 million a year in real estate, it's this guy. This is what he does, and he's been doing it for a long time that way. But he talks to his military people and say, hey, you know anyone who's up for orders? Not to you. Hey, do you know anyone who's looking to buy or sell? No one wants to hear buy or sell. No one wants to hear the word referral. Can you introduce me to anyone who's up for orders? Hey, can you connect me with anyone who's PCSing? Those are their words, and they're automatically going to that word picture of like, oh yeah, my buddy right here is PCS, and he's going from Virginia Beach to somewhere in Texas. And so that's a great connection for me.
Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
I love it.
One of the other things I wanted to ask you about is you have a term called, I believe it's change agent. Did I get that right? Yes.
Yes. My
Talk to
agents
me
are
about
change
that.
agents.
What does
Yes.
that mean?
Yeah. All right. So my agents, man, this might be the rest of the show right here. We call ourselves change agents because we are initiating, facilitating, and driving positive transformation in the real estate industry. And what that means, and if you ever go to our change agent stuff and see our change agent logo, on one side of the logo, you basically have 4 curved lines that are there. If it's in color, they're actually going to be in blue, and it's designed to show the ripple effect of impact. And it starts off with that first ripple being, this is what happens when you decide. And again, every single person who is in real estate is a business owner. Even if you're an agent who works for another brokerage, you are a business owner. And when you decide to invest in your growth and who you are, and understand that you will never out earn your self-esteem. And so being successful a lots of times is making sure that you're constantly working on personal growth, and that you're constantly developing yourself, and you're constantly taking in content, and you're discerning which content to apply and what not to apply, because you can't do it all. Like, you can't take all this stuff in and do it all, but you can make little tweaks along the way. And this is something I learned as a basketball guy, because I got into real estate to coach basketball, and I'd be exposed to all these coaches, and you take a little bit from this coach and a little bit from this coach and a little bit from this coach. And you're building what you think is the perfect coach, right? Especially the one that hits your God-given abilities and talents and whatever else. And so much in real estate is how much we work on the personal development side, because I hate to tell you this, Andrew, and I'm sure you've seen it, but there's a lot of insecure people in our business. Like, there's a lot of people with imposter syndrome. And we know that that's the case because I don't see a lot of real estate agent Halloween costumes going around every fall. There's not a lot of people who think about being a realtor when they grow up. We get into real estate because we failed at something else. because we were the stay-at-home parent who wants to get back in the workforce. We're wrapping up one career. We want to start a twilight career. We didn't go to college, but like it's like only 31% of agents have a bachelor's degree or something like that. So we didn't go to college, and this is like the one job where we can make a decent living without going to college. But all those things add up to, okay, I took a, in Kentucky, it's 96 hours, we joke. And I know that's actually, when I speak across the country, I find out that Kentucky's actually one of the longer ones. It's 1,600 hours to become a barber in the state of Kentucky, but it's 96 hours to become a realtor. And here I am, this maybe, I was a stay-at-home mom who didn't go to college, who just wants to make a few extra bucks. And now I'm working with a client who is going through an incredibly stressful time and making the largest financial decision of their life. And I feel completely inadequate to serve that person. And so because of that, and all of this was born out of what our mission statement for our offices says, it says change the algorithm. And when you go to Google or whatever your search bar is, and you type in realtors are, it autofills with not the most affirming words in the world. It's really negative stuff. And that's there because we're leading with that imposter syndrome. We're leading with that inadequacy. We're taking this very stressed out client who's making this large decision in their life, and we're not prepared to work with that person. So we've got to work on that personal growth side, which allows us then to give a better client experience, which then allows us to go to the third ripple, which is having a better business. And eventually that fourth ripple is the legacy we leave. How do we change our market? How do we change our industry? And then the other side of that logo is like a half a gear. And that's to represent the systems and processes that we have to have in place to have a successful real estate business. Because we all got in this business because we're searching for some sort of freedom. Every single person who gets in this business is either looking for money freedom, time freedom, both, whatever it might be. You're looking for some sort of freedom. But the truth of it is we got to embrace the structure to really unlock the freedom that this business promises.
I want to push on the imposter syndrome. So
yeah, let's do it.
I'm personally of the opinion that imposter syndrome is healthy because it means that you're growing, right? You should feel like an imposter when you're doing something that you've never done before. And the only way to grow is to do something you've never done before. And so I like to frame it in a way of imposter syndrome is just a sign of growth, and you'll get over it as you get better at it. So if you never have imposter syndrome, you're not growing.
Okay, I actually like where you're going with that, because what we talk about is successful people never feel successful. They always feel like they're slowly failing, because successful people always feel like there's another level for them to get to. There was something else they could have done. They didn't do it at 100%, blah, 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 blah. So the differential I'm going to make between how you're defining imposter syndrome and where I'm defining imposter syndrome, I think it lives in the action, or in at least the intent of the action, right? So in my case, when I'm talking about the inadequate imposter syndrome of agents, a lot of agents lack the training, they lack the skill, they lack I don't, there's a lot of, the algorithm exists on Google for a reason. Okay. And the reality of it is we don't have that many bad agents out there. We just have people who don't realize they're bad agents and they've been poorly trained. And so the lack of clarity in the action to take to continually have that growth and get better starts with that decision of making that first ripple of saying, you know what, I'm going to look at these training programs. I'm going to work on my self-esteem, and I'm going to do all this other kind of stuff. And you're taking those actions, and you're exactly right, Andrew. Like, anybody who is successful never feels like they've arrived. They always feel like, hey man, I could have done so much more. I'm frustrated right now. It's like, we should be so much further along. And if you've never read this book called The Gap in the Game by Dan Sullivan, it kind of talks about this. Like, we're always measuring ourselves about where we think we should be. Sometimes we got to take a step back and like, man, this is where I started. I was a Catholic school teacher who got into real estate business with a pregnant wife and one child already here, and didn't even know how to sell anything. And now, 18 years later, I have a real estate company since 2011 that has offices in multiple cities. Like this is crazy, right? I mean, um, and I still know, like today it was like, man, well, how do we get here? How do we get here? And so I think that's really kind of what you're talking about. And I think
Yeah.
that's
Have
dead
you ever
on.
heard the study? It basically says you always feel like 10% more is where you're going to cut it off, where you think you're good. You always feel like
Hmm.
10% of what you have. So saying monetarily, let's say you're at 100,000 a year, you'll feel like you're good
Yep.
at $110,000 a year. And then when you hit that, you feel like what is
It's gonna be
exactly.
121,000. Yeah. All right. Yeah. And again, I think that comes back to like the people who are driven always know that there's a next level that they could have achieved, right? Like, um, did you
I
grow up
did.
playing video games? Yeah, you want to beat the video game, right? There's always, most of these video games now are almost infinite. Like, there's always that next level. I started playing that stupid Royal Match game, whatever else, and I was like, it's got to end at
Never
some
does.
point, and then I just had to delete off my phone.
It's like
No, I
Candy
had to delete
Crush.
it.
You
Yeah,
just keep
had to
going,
go.
Every time you're
Yeah,
like,
right,
I'm almost there,
right.
they're like 10
Yeah,
new levels.
but I think that one of the things that the Buffini company does is they give us a really cool personality assessment. And right before this call, actually, I was on a call with my coach, my Buffini coach, and all of my staff. So that we had 5 people on this call, and we were going through this personality assessment. And then you realize that like the agents who are successful all have some sort of competitive trait, right? So that competitive trait being either I'm a champion, my wife's an Olympian, I work with my wife. And so like that competitive trait is what continues, I think, to set that 10% further, right? Because it's like, okay, I ran a mile. Can I go a mile and a half? I ran a mile and a half. Can I go 3 miles? Like you're always moving you're moving that horizon, you're moving that finish line a little bit because you want to achieve more. But for us to achieve
I
more,
agree.
we got to
I
become
agree
more.
with that 100%. Do you have like people around you do the personality test for you, or do you do them?
No, yeah, Buffini does the
Okay.
personality test for us. So like it's one of the things when you get into coaching, they call you up, they've got this proprietary assessment, and I've done the Enneagram and the disc, and you do all those things, but this real strengths profile that Buffini does is
Okay.
the
I see.
best.
That's one thing that I found is having a coach or someone around you take the personality test on your behalf. I feel like it gets
Oh,
because
yeah.
that gets me like
Yeah.
it's like, oh, like I didn't even realize I did that. And then you think about it and you're like, oh, I do. So I also have a coach as well. And so one thing that I always do is I do it 3 times. I have my girlfriend take the personality test for me. I take the personality test and I have my coach do it. And then it's really rock solid. It's like everything that shows up in there in all 3 of them is like, that's what you are.
Man, one of my favorite speakers actually I ever saw was this lady named Sally Hogshead. What an unfortunate last name. But Sally actually, her book is called Fascinate, and the assessment that she gives, and this is probably one of the more effective ones I saw, was really not. And I think this goes along with what you were just saying. You take the test, but this is how you are not. This is not uncovering your natural gifts and abilities. This is actually showing how you're perceived by others. So that perception, and when you have those two pieces, by the way, like when you have a very good awareness of how you're made up, and then how you're perceived by others, and then you can figure out how to basically say, hey, so like I'm a motivator, right? Which means like if someone gets in here, they're going to not. I'm not going to be wishy washy about like, oh, well, what do you want to do? Like we're gonna like have a plan, boom, 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 boom. But sometimes people can feel like that's overwhelming. It's funny because my dad and I used to work together, and he's a facilitator, and I would go into a listing and be like, this wallpaper is going to have to go, it cost you $10,000. And my dad's like, he's not saying it's ugly, we're just trying to appeal to the masses, blah blah blah. And I'm so like pragmatic and like boom boom, we got to do this and this. he had to clean me up, but I had to learn how to manage that so I could communicate to those other people. And it's so much of it has to do with this is how we're wired and this is how we're perceived by others, and so that you can become a more effective communicator and get person, and go back to just the basic stuff that's in How to Win Friends and Influence People, from Dale Carnegie. Like, you just go through that, all those things about knowing yourself, how to manage yourself, how to manage that perception so that you can get to the result
I
that you want to
100%
get to.
agree. Have you ever heard gap selling? Read that?
I have heard that, but I can't think of it right
Okay,
now. But
so
tell me about
here's
it.
where I'm tying this in. So when you're saying you're very
Okay.
motivating and you go in, you see the wallpaper and you go, that needs to change if we're going to sell this.
Yeah.
Gap selling is the idea of
Right.
when you try to have someone do something or you're trying to sell them something, as it's framed in the book, you want to understand where they are. So what's the end goal? And then how does that get them to that end goal? So you sell the gap, essentially.
Gotcha.
And so
Okay. Kind of like
in this instance, like let's say you're getting to the house
ahead.
and you're like, okay, so you want to sell
Yep.
the house. Okay, we're going to go through, we're going to look at that. Okay, maybe we should look at this. Maybe we should look at this. Instead of bringing it up that way, you say, would you like to sell the house? Well, you're more likely to sell the house if you change this wallpaper. And you just explain that because it ties it to the end goal. So now they want to do it instead of them pushing back against you.
Correct. And that's where it really also comes, knowing your client's motivation, right? Like knowing what they want to do. And one of my mentors is a guy named Joe Nego, and he even had this visualization of, like, he would pull out a piece of paper and fold it in half, and on one side he would say, I want to stay, and the other one would say, I want to move. And specifically, I think when you're dealing with like price reductions, right? Oh, I don't want to reduce the price. I want to reduce the price. And we're like, well, we're not getting showings of whatever else. Like, the best thing for us to do right here is to reduce the price. And he would just say, okay, I hear you. You want to stay at your price. Is that, so you're saying like, you're okay if it doesn't sell, you want to stay? Like, no, we really want to, we want to move. We got to get to, California to be with our grandkids or whatever else. Oh, so you want to move, and then, and then leave. Like, okay, well, in order for us to get to, for us to move, this is what's going to have to happen. I think that's great. Yeah, I love the gap selling thing.
I wanted to ask you as well, so maybe a little bit on pricing here. I always hear in business, you should increase the price and then sell lower. So it's called a price anchor, is typically what it's heard a lot in business. So let's say you price a house at $450,000, but you're really trying to sell it for $400,000. So you price anchor it at the $450,000. You list it on the MLS for that. And then you sell at slightly below after people tour it because it gives a higher perceived value. Have you ever played around with that?
So there's 3 different pricing strategies and there's one thing first off that I want to make sure that everyone's very clear on. Real estate is not retail. Okay. Just quit pricing things on the nines. Nothing drives me upset. Like, if you're at 400, be at 400. Don't be at 399. And the reason why is our job with price is, price to me has very little to do with what we think the home's worth. And this, I think, goes to your point. Price to me is the bait we throw in the water to see how many fish we can attract. And we're going to get someone on the hook based off the bait that we throw out there. So if I price something at 400 versus 399, I'm catching both. We got to think about how people search. I'm catching both sides of a search. I'm catching the top of a search, maybe, and the back and the bottom of a search. I might have someone who's searching from 400 to 500. If I got someone who's searching from 400 to 500 and I'm priced at 399, my house doesn't come up in the search. So when we started really kind of looking at, and we started tracking, we saw that pricing on price points, 375, 400, whatever else, actually increase our visibility to our listings by 18 to 23%. And so that was a huge thing for us too. It's like, we don't price in the nines, we price on price points. Now, I think that you have to answer your question, you can price above value, where you're trying to pace the market. You can price things at value, or you can price things below value. And again, realizing that real estate is not retail. If I price things above value, you got to always think about that I'm coming up in a search with those other things that are coming up in that range. So in your case, if I'm priced at 450 and I'm hoping to get 400, but when I come up on the search, everything else there's 450, right? And the buyer's choosing which houses they're going to see based off the search. They're not looking at your home in a vacuum by itself. So, and I actually even think that very few, if you went through and you asked the buyers, hey, what's this house actually listed at? They probably wouldn't be able to tell you. They would just know that it came up in their search, right? Hey, I know it's between 4 and 475 because it came up in my search. And if I'm at 450 and everything else around 450 should be at 450, I'm not going to get seen. Like I'm not going to, and we actually even use this when we're talking in our price reduction conversations with our clients. It's like, we know, and this goes back, if I've got a normal piece of real estate, it's not an abnormal thing. By the way, abnormal pieces of property, unique pieces of property, or some properties that have some sort of celebrity factor are the only time when we would overprice something. But if I have a normal piece of real estate, then I know that if I price it correctly, no matter what the marketing conditions, and the reason why I know this is because I tested this out when there was a year of inventory in our MLS in the 2009, 2010, 2011 timeframe. If I price it correctly, that we will, in the first 3 weeks of hitting the market, we will have between 12 and 15 showings, and we will have an acceptable offer. And we have to remember how important first impressions are in the real estate space. There's really, you really have a couple opportunities at a first impression. You have a first impression when you first go on the market with where you price it and how you present it with the pictures and everything else like that, and how it's presented on the MLS, which, by the way, is getting ready to completely change. And also you have the ability to, when someone pulls up to the house, what's their first impression, right? Like those are things that are extremely important. So if I'm priced correctly and and people see I'm worth it, then I'm going to get those 12 to 15 showings. And I say the first 3 weeks because that's what it was when times were slow, but I've got a pool of buyers that are there that when I go in the market, that pool of buyers that's already on the market, they know what my house should be priced at. They know exactly, they know the value of the house better than the seller, better than the agent, better than the appraiser, because they're out there trying to spend their money. And right now they're frustrated because they've lost out on other deals, or they don't see anything that's got the value that they perceive. Like you've talked about perceived value. They want to go in that front door and be like, man, this house is really worth it. Like this is worth what they're asking for. Like this is a deal. Like they go into that house with that first impression thinking that this is a deal. They'll go over thinking that they're still getting a deal. Right? So we want to be at or slightly below when it comes to value, because we want to play that mental game with people. We want people to come in and say, not only do I want this, I want to compete for this. I want to make sure that, we got to get this house. This is a great buy. Oh, by the way, you end up going $25,000 over where I probably never would have gotten that before, right? So I actually think that in your analogy, the 450 who's hoping to get the 4 is going to be on the market for a long time. It's probably going to have a price reduction. You're going to have a seller who's frustrated versus, hey, I actually priced it at 4. People came through and maybe they thought it was really like a 405. They went to 420 and they waived inspections and they, made it as easy on the seller. Because once you get over 3 offers, the seller basically gets to dictate their terms, right? The seller gets whatever
absolutely.
they want.
I brought this up because I was talking to a brokerage. I was in their team meeting about a month ago, and he was talking about how you should price at or slightly above. And so I always like to ask, because it seems like everyone has a different philosophy on how you price the house, because there's different things that you look for. And I think part of the reason he brought up why you should price at or slightly above is because it's a seller's market. He's wanting you to price at where you're going to get it. But because it's such a heavy seller's market in Wisconsin right now, you almost, like, your first inclination is to go below where the market actually wants. Because I think there's a couple places.
Wouldn't that be the opposite though? If it was a buyer's market, you want to go below.
Yeah.
Because like if it was a buyer's market, you got time. Like you're the only offer. You can play around, whatever. If it's a seller's market,
That's
like
what
you
I'm
got
saying.
to act.
That's what I'm
If
saying.
you
They
want
want
it,
to
you got to
price it
act.
at slightly
Yeah.
above because they're getting
Yeah.
people anyways. And so, like, I think right now we have 3 months of inventory, depending on where you go. Like, it's rough. So,
Yeah. Yeah. We're about
yeah,
7 weeks.
yeah. I know
Yeah.
Lake Geneva, the luxury market, is
Mhm.
about a month. It's wild. So,
Wow.
I think pricing is also slightly dictated by the market there as well, which is part of the reason I ask. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, and it might not be. I mean, I think at the end of the day, like your guy with his analogy of going slightly above, he might end up with 2 or 3 offers. Where if I'm slightly below, I might end up with
It's
7 or
true.
8 offers. And I think it could make that kind of a difference, right? Like because again, the buyer in a seller's market, it's not enough to say I want this house. It's they got to decide, am I willing to compete for this house? If they're looking at a house in the first weekend that it's on the market, it's am I willing to compete for this place? That's where it
Yeah,
really comes down to.
and with the new MLS
All right, go
updates,
ahead.
am I willing to pay my buyer's agent? That's the new fun one.
Well, I mentioned here in a little bit that the way that we search for properties is getting ready to change, and there's things coming out that where Zillow is going to be releasing really soon if they haven't. And Redfin may have already released it. I know our website that we use, Sierra Interactive, they're getting ready to release it, where clients are going to be able to search agent remarks better for things that are important to them. And it's going to change the way that we need to write remarks in the MLS, because you're going to have to start to think more like a builder and be a little bit more pragmatic with your text and your specifications, and stop using corny adjectives and really get down to, the reality of it is the person's probably not reading it. They've got some AI that's trying to scrub through it. So you want to make sure the AI catches it and pulls your listing up to the top. And that's one of the things that's going to be changing how they search for homes here really soon. And we're not seeing much difficulty in and where we're not, we're able to we've been very successful at working in the compensation for our buyers agents into the deal. I am a big believer that there should not be any compensation agreement between the brokers. I do believe that the compensation is, if the seller decides to pay that compensation to the buyer's agent, that's the seller paying it, not the other broker. So it's changing how we're doing some of those agreements. And I think that at the same time, when we're talking on the listing side, we're preparing our sellers for what they're going to see. Hey, this is what our fee is to list your house, and this is what we can expect when someone writes an offer. That don't get offended if we get an offer and it's including paying the buyer's agent. Like that's going to become normal. And you can, it's so much of this business is how we present things to clients. And like if we talked about the lead generation side and we talked about systemizing and being consistent on that, the next thing you go to work on is you got to be a freaking great presenter in our business. And you got to really, and we talked about a little bit with choosing the words with the motivator facilitator thing, and talking about that gap selling. But at the same time, like we really got to hone in on our presentation skills. That might be it. Like if you've got a consistent, strong lead generation strategy that you systemize and you're executing on a consistent basis, you've got strong presentation skills. I mean, that's like 98%
I
of this business.
100% agree. I 100% agree with that. What makes me think a lot is the MLS, how we're searching, because I've heard a couple people around talking like SEO for the MLS type thing, because search engine optimization, right? It's all about writing that copy, doing getting the pictures right. Everything has to be dialed in so that you show up first. And so I always think about how can someone optimize their listing to show up number one. And I'm curious, especially with MLS changes with Redfin and Zillow adding all these things, is there almost going to be a market for that?
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be showing up first or just making sure that you're showing up as frequent as possible, right? Like which one's going to be more important? Showing up first is because I don't think we're going to see a lot of times when a buyer's searching online, they're like, oh, there's the house, the first one I see, I'm going to go buy that one right now. Like they want some, they're making the largest decision of their life. They're making a financial decision and an emotional decision at the same time. They're making an investments decision plus the decision of where they're gonna do life, right? So like they're typically gonna say, hey, these are the ones that I want to go see. And I would think that, what we see kind of behaviorally is that buyers will go through a list of 50, 60 homes to kind of try to get the ones that they think they really want
Absolutely.
to go see. So so it's not necessarily that you come up first, but how often do you come up in searches? And if you can make sure that you're coming up in searches as often as possible, then you're in good shape. I do think, though, you brought up Redfin, and I know I brought up Redfin too, and their acquisition here recently with Rocket Mortgage, and it's just something for us to watch as an industry. Like I think it's something that we got to be very cognizant of like just really understanding too about how we're making sure the data that we contribute to may work against us, right? So we're educating people right now because I think one of the things that Rocket Mortgage is out there doing is making sure that people know that, hey, you want us to help you find what other subscriptions that you're paying for, that so we can get you stop paying for these subscriptions and blah 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 blah. Well, they're doing that because they're getting all your information. They're understanding when's the last time you had a mortgage, whatever else, and it's strictly designed to uh like bombard you with mortgage information when you need a mortgage, or Redfin when you need a realtor. And you know, is that type of marketing effective? No question about it. But do I think it will ever overcome the relationship that two people have? There's going to be cases. I'll lose people because they think that they're going to push button, get mortgage. It's real easy and they're getting a deal or whatever else. But the majority of my people, you'd have to sweeten that pot so good for them not to come work with me. I mean, because and I'll give you an example. I have a client that I sold her house 3 years ago. In the last 30 days, I have we've had some pretty bad flooding here in Kentucky, and I've referred her to a basement waterproofing person. I've referred her to a roofer. I've even referred her to a neurologist. Like she even came to me. It's like, hey, I can't get in with this one neurologist. Can you help me? And the influence that we're able to have in our marketplace because we're connectors. Go read The Go Giver. That is the book. The Go Giver is it. They become that connector. And I was able to get her inside the when she couldn't get into the neurologist for 3 months. I got her into a better neurologist in 10 days. That person's not going anywhere. I'm competing at a level where the competition doesn't even know a game's being played.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. You'd love my LinkedIn. I hammer in like at least 2 to 3 times a week of, I just say relationships and then is greater than sales. Every time, all the time, just hammer it in, because that's really where the greatest, like, even if you're a strict business person, that's where the highest ROI is. It's that simple.
Absolutely. I mean, and in real estate, it shows up, right? Like if the National Association of Realtors puts out data every year, like it never fails. I mean, they've got it dispersed into separate categories, but when you add them up, like relational, referral based, repeat business equates for about 70 to 80% of our business every year. And it does not change. And it's so interesting to me how many people focus on the 20% of the other leads that are available versus systemizing where 80% of the leads are coming from, or 3/4 of the leads are coming from, and still use services like what you provide, Andrew, like at the end of the day, because like when you can systemize that cold stuff on the background where you're not getting or it's not taking up your time and energy, right? But then you get the opportunity to connect with someone and bring them into a referral-based, relationship-based situation. They think they're swimming with sharks where everyone's out there trying to get them, and all of a sudden you bring them over and it's a whole different world. And if you'll indulge me and let me tell the story about the time I was on House Hunters. I was in House Hunters in 2013, and I was referred to this client in 2012, and she had the worst experience with agents in New Orleans and Charleston, South Carolina. And when she was referred to me, she thought I was a lender. And when she found out I was a realtor, she's like, I'm not interested in working with a realtor. I want to do this on my own. I've had really bad experiences, and we don't need to get into what those bad experiences are. But, and I just said, hey, no problem. I just want to let you know it's scary to move to a brand new area. I'm here as a resource. Call me with questions anytime you want. And I would call and follow up with her. I never asked her for her business, and because I respected the line, and I just continued to provide value, check on her every, 10 days or so. And then eventually she calls me and she's like, I'm frustrated. I'm realizing I can't do this on my own. Would you be willing? I know I said I didn't want to work with you. Would you be willing to help us out? And we go out there, and this is back when inventory was a little bit more abundant than it is now. So there was options for them, but she's frustrated, and we go out and look at a home, and she's like, she's ready to buy this place. And I'm like, Jessica, you told me that this, and this were important to you. This house literally checks none of those boxes, and it's $15,000 over your budget. And I was like, you need to be more patient. You're not being unreasonable. The house that you want is out there. And we ended up finding her the house that was actually $15,000 under her budget, checked all her boxes, got her exactly what she wanted. And at the closing table, she's like, I didn't think I need you. Now I don't know how I would do this without you. And so when you get the opportunity to take that person from that world who, maybe feeds into that algorithm that realtors are trash and quitting or in crisis, whatever else, and you bring them over to understanding what the value it is that what we really do, that we're there for people at the most challenging time of their life when they're making one of the biggest investments in their life, you can really, it can make a huge impact.
Yeah.
So
Real estate is a very sensitive industry for a lot of people, and you have to do it right. You have to take the time.
Sure.
And I think the weirdest thing for real estate is it's just a relationship. Like, taking the time is just getting to know what they're looking for.
Yeah, it's getting to know, and even more than what they're looking for. I mean, I think when it comes down to one of the cool things about the changes with compensation is that it's forcing people to have buyer consultations, right? It's forcing you to have a buyer, and we've always had buyer consultations. But my buyer consultation, and I got a person, I was talking with them yesterday. They moved to California a long time ago, but I'm still communicating with them. And at the end of the day, I sat down and I was helping them buy a house. And our consultation was like, man, just tell me what's your life like? What do you all like to do? Take me through a normal week, because they're talking to me about all these things and whatever else. And they always try. They always go, oh, well, we want a 3-bedroom and a fenced in backyard. And I was like, no. Like, we'll get into those specifics in a little bit. Like, just tell me how your life works. Right. And then I start connecting with them, and we build rapport and whatever else, but I'm listening for, okay, as a real estate agent, I understand that 1,800 square feet is 1,800 square feet. I'm not getting large bedrooms and a ton of entertainment space in 1,800 square feet. I'm going to get either or. Is it more important that you have good sized bedrooms and smaller entertainment space, or really nice entertainment space and smaller bedrooms? I'm listening for, hey, they're expecting a child. I can't tell you how many times I've gone into it and I think this is common in your area too, like the Cape Cod style, where the whole second floor is the master bedroom and the other 2 bedrooms on the first floor. And and it's a popular first time home buyer house, right? So I'm showing these people, and they're expecting a child, or maybe they're just getting married, and I'll say, hey, are you going to have children in this house? How do you feel about having your kids on the first floor with you on the second floor? I've never thought of that way. You're able to really just like to understand where people are at, and then how you can help mold their experience to kind of fit the lifestyle they want, and they feel valued, they feel heard, they feel served.
Yeah.
They're gonna refer every time, and that's a big part of it. But it's connect with people. Don't start things off with how great you are. Don't tell people about this is all the stuff my company does, blah blah blah. It's about them. It's not about us. We're not the hero. We're the guide. We're the ones that are out there to help try to get them to where they want.
I love it. I'll tell you what, I don't have any other questions for you. So where would you like to send people?
Yeah. So your audience is mainly
real estate agents,
people,
real estate
right?
brokers.
Yeah. Hey, if you're a real estate agent or you're a real estate broker out there, I'm not selling anything. So I love the opportunity to come talk to offices and tell them about what it's like to be a change agent and really kind of lay out the entire change agent thing. So you can actually go to realchangeagent.com and get all the information that we have out there on resources. We're doing more things with YouTube video and trying to get some blog posts out there. But it really comes down to, like, I want to get face to face with your people. I want to Zoom into office meetings. I want to do keynotes, and I want to, or if you want to do a 12-week year training, we can do all that kind of stuff. I am a certified 12-week year trainer, and we just want to be there and help this industry get better any way possible. And if you're in Louisville, Kentucky, and you're interested in a new office or a new brokerage, actually anywhere in Kentucky, because we got offices in Louisville and Danville,
Love
Kentucky
it.
as well. So we'd love to have you.